Where'd you find this?
Okay, this is the lesson video for section 1.3, which is all about finding the length or distance between 2 points and also the midpoint between 2 points, both of which when we're working on the coordinate plane. There's a couple of ways to find the distance. The first example, I'm going to show you what I think is the easier way. To find the distance between 1, 2, and 3, 5, you can connect those 2 points with straight lines and then a line directly between them, which makes a right triangle. Then counting the units along the vertical and horizontal lines, I have a side with a length 2, a side with a length of 3, and that missing side we don't know. Hopefully you remember from previous classes the Pythagorean theorem, right up here. The A and the B are the two sides that are either horizontal or vertical. So substitute those in for A and B, square them, add them together, and then to solve for that missing side or the distance between the points, you just square root. So you end up with 3.61. Okay, so there's another way to do this using what's called the distance formula. The distance formula is basically the same thing. But if all you want to do is just substitute numbers into a formula and evaluate, you can use the distance formula. This is what we just did with Pythagorean theorem. It's just another way of writing it out. But if you notice, you subtract the x's of the 2 points and then square it, subtract the y's of the 2 points, square it, add together, and then square root. So here's an example of that working. First, you want to add labels to your points. First point is 0.1, so x1, y1. Second point is x2, y2. Then substitute into the distance formula, x2, then x1, then y2, then y1. Then when you evaluate, you've got 3 minus 1 is 2, 5 minus 2 is 3. Square each one, add it together, and then square root. Turns out to be the same answer as what we got for example 1. So either way, you're doing the same thing. You're finding the same result. It's really just a matter of preference. Okay. The other thing that we need to learn in this lesson is what is a midpoint. A midpoint is a point that cuts a segment in half. It's right in the middle, so it makes two congruent and equal segments from the larger segment. A segment bisector is basically the same thing, except that it's a line that passes through the midpoint. The line cuts the segment in half. Finding the midpoint is using a formula where you add your x's together and divide by 2, and you add your y's together and divide by 2, and that gives you new coordinates. The midpoint will be halfway between the two original points, because basically all you're doing is averaging the x's and averaging the y's. So an example of that is right here. If the original points are 5, -4, and -1, 2, to find that midpoint, we're going to add our x's. 5 plus -1, which is 4. Then add the y's. -4 plus 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. -4 plus 2 is -2. -2 divided by 2 is -1. So that tells us our midpoint is then at the coordinates 2, -1. There are other ways to find the midpoint, but that is pretty quick and easy. So I encourage you to just add the x's and the y's together and then divide each by 2. There are a couple of your turn problems, so give those a try. And then we will work on this stuff in class tomorrow. Thank you.